Arabs have, as we see in Iraq, serious splits among each other. Oh, the Druze serve in the Israeli army. The Druze want to serve in the Israeli army. So how can the Druze serve in the Israeli army and the Hasidim don't serve in the Israeli army? Well, this is some of the contradictions that you have there. The Druze leaders went to the Israeli government and said, oh, we want our young men trained in war. We want them to know how to fight, sort of like the Navajo in the American army, you know. The Navajo, you say, why should the Navajo fight for the Americans? Because they think that they're American and they want to, certainly they go to, most Navajo who go into the army often go into the Marines, the toughest part of the American army. A lot of people do that. I know some Japanese friends of mine all volunteer for the U.S. Marines. There's a lot of people who feel that way. A lot of Hispanics feel that way too. But the Navajo go, and the Druze are very into quite serious fighting units and border police sort of units. Often when you see problems in the border police, it's the Druze that are involved in beating people up, because they're always in the border situations, at checkpoints and things like that. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that. But the point of the matter is that the Hasidim are very unpopular in Israel. And I just read something in the paper, I think it was today or yesterday, I was reading the paper, and it was about a law passed in Israel, I forget what it was, something about, oh yeah, stopping the Hasidim from making propaganda on the streets, like I think we in America stopped the Hare Krishnas from handing out propaganda in the airports. Stopping the Hasidim from making propaganda on the streets, bothering people on the streets, handing out whatever they hand out, stuff like that. Yeah, there was just a law passed the other day against them in the parliament. So, which is, and you're responding because you know that could happen. It could, couldn't it? People feel that way.
They're annoying.
Huh?
They're annoying.
Yeah, well, unless you're one of them. Yeah, they can be annoying people who don't like them, and then people who like them, yeah.
Propaganda in the streets and the people that go door to door like soliciting.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's what I mean. That sort of thing. They can stop you on the street too. If you're walking on the street, they'll say, "Oh, let me wrap a tefillin on your arm." And a tefillin or tefillin is these things that they, when they pray, they put leather strapping around. I don't know if you've ever seen them around your arm, and they put a prayer box on their head and so on and so forth with a little passage from the Bible. And they want everyone to do that, don't they? So they'll stop you, and they'll, and they might go to door or something, but more they stop you on the street. But I don't know, in America, I mean, Jehovah's Witness, all these people go door to door, Mormon people and others go door to door. I think in Israel they would be really upset by that if they started going door to door like that. They'd really get worked up. They're stopping them even from doing it on the street there, Anyway, that's a good question. Anyway, so I just wanted to show you that, so that's not the only reason, but that, the other reason is they don't like them, is because those people, often, not all of them, some of them, not all of them, they're all split among them. The Hasidim are all split among themselves. And some of them, anyway, some of the most extreme of these extreme people, depending who their Rebbe is, who's a kind of Jesus figure for them, charismatic leader, miracle worker, and so on, messianic miracle worker, that's how Jesus portrayed in Scripture. They prefer to live under Arab rule. They would go, for instance, to Yasser Arafat and welcome him, because the reason they don't want to corrupt the world with an unjust Jewish rule. So they would prefer to live, they think all rule is unjust, but they would prefer to live with an unjust non-Jewish rule than an unjust Jewish rule, because they feel that that would be more hurtful to God and displeasing if if that were to happen. So they prefer to be tolerated under an Islamic or Palestinian or other world like that. And so those groups in Israel are really hated. Not because of their attitude or what they think, it's the fact that they actually are looked upon almost like traitors. So anyway, so there is all that, and there's all that running through this book, isn't there? That's what the plot is here in this book. Because as 1944 goes into 1945, the American armies come into the concentration camps, and then the news of what they find in the concentration camps and so on begins to leak out. Whether you believe it or not, and I think it's pretty well documented, but I don't want to get into that argument. The enormity of the horror that occurred begins to seep home into the community here in Brooklyn. And so they're all going to religious schools in Brooklyn, but then different groups of people, particularly people like Reuben's father, are agitating for the setting up for the refugees and others, that the British government and others should finally allow a Jewish state in Palestine, which of course we now know is supposed to be the crux of all the problems in the Middle East. Whether it's the crux of all the problems in the Middle East, since we're a mixed class here, I don't really want to get into whether you think